Well, I chose to study at Glasgow University because I lived in Buccleuch. I'm from Buccleuch, so it was geographically easy for me. But the reason that really motivated me to sort of work very hard to get into Glasgow was it has an amazing reputation. I felt that Glasgow had a brilliant atmosphere. It was a very friendly city. I used to come through a lot anyway with my mates at the weekends and stuff. And it had a really interesting take on arts. And at the time, film and television was a very new degree. And I was very excited about the possibility of studying here. So what I do now is, for 20 years, I worked at the BBC in development and production. And then I went to America to work for the Discovery Channel for 5 years as their VP of production and development for their international networks. And I'm just in the process of changing jobs now, and I'm joining as a creative director of a leading production company in Los Angeles. First off, be incredibly motivated to get a job. No one is going to come and find you. You have to write and reach out to as many different people as you possibly can. I think that following up on any networking opportunities you have is really important. I know that when you're younger, sometimes it just doesn't occur to you to email the person that you've just had a meeting with to say, can you stay in touch? Can you go on their LinkedIn network? Can you go and have an informational meeting with them? But I think networking is an amazingly important skill. And you shouldn't be embarrassed about doing it. Everyone in America is doing it, everyone in London is doing it, everyone expects you to do it. And I think if you don't follow up on any opportunities or meetings you have, it actually goes against you. So be very, very pushy in your networking, polite, but be, pushy. And I think the other thing that I would really recommend is when you're having an interview with someone in a production company or a film company, and this sounds so ridiculous and counterintuitive, don't try and sound too clever. Because what happens is the person interviewing you can be incredibly intimidated by what you're saying, and you may have a lot more hands-on experience perhaps than they do, or you may be more academic than they are. I think probably more academic with this course. And that can intimidate people. And what they're really doing when they're meeting you at these very early stage interviews for jobs when you're just starting out is to find out whether they like you. And the single most important thing you can do in an interview is make someone like you. And if they like you, they're going to be much more inclined to give you a job. Yes, they want to know that you can do what you need them to do, but they're probably not going to be asking you to do something incredibly complicated in the early stages of your career. So one of the single biggest things I've always been amazed at is when I'm interviewing young people is them trying to oversell themselves with a multitude of skills and academic research and their knowledge. And actually that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone, and I think most people in TV are at those stages, who's personable, who's genuinely excited about TV. So always make sure that you know what you're going to say when they say, what's your favourite TV show and why? Because they're going to ask you. And that they're prepared to start at the bottom. Don't be over-entitled that you think because you have a degree you should be making the film. You're not going to be making the film, and probably the person interviewing you is much better qualified to do that. So I think really just be very focused on making them like you, not being entitled, following up on any interviews you have, whether you get them or you don't get them, any opportunities you have to network with people, make sure you follow up. Use LinkedIn and all the other social media sites you can to stay connected and follow what's going on TV and film, and make sure that you have a story about yourself. Make sure that you can explain why you're interested in this industry and what you want to bring to it, and that it sounds credible and doesn't oversell yourself almost. I've loved working in Britain, and I'm really glad that I had that experience, but I do generally like working in America. I think that working in America is a completely different sort of way of making television. It's much more energetic. They're much more enthusiastic. I don't think they're as cynical as the production industry in Britain. I think there's a huge opportunity to do a load more types of television programming. There's loads more channels that you can work with. I think that they're really using cameras and techniques in a totally different way to the British production companies. So I think that television is actually just more exciting in America, especially in the scripted space, but also increasingly in factual, which is where I work. And I can be absolutely honest, you will earn a lot more money working in the US than you will in Britain. So I think it's scary. And you have to be very aware of the cultural differences, and there are a lot of cultural differences. Like swearing is one of them. Don't swear in America. But I do think that it's a really good way of just seeing that television is an international industry. It is not about just the BBC or Channel 4 or Great Britain. It's way bigger than that. And you get a really good sense of that the minute you hit America, because they're much more international actually. If I could go back in time and give myself advice, my advice would be to be much more focused and strategic about trying to get into television, being much more pushy. I think perhaps less so, women are not as sort of, they don't hold back as much as maybe I did, but I felt very intimidated by a lot of the people around me, especially the other students actually, and I didn't push myself forward enough, I didn't speak out enough, and I think that you have to show your passion, it has to come through as soon as possible. So if I could go back in time, I would definitely say be even more enthusiastic, show the enthusiasm that I was feeling inside. I would sign up for more things. I would do much more. I did a lot of GUST, student TV. I would have been much more addicted. Actually, it's hard to imagine being more addicted to it, but be addicted to student TV if you can. And not being scared of being rejected. You know, you're going to get rejected. And I think when you're younger and you get rejected, you take it very personally and it kind of knocks you for six. Don't. Everyone's getting rejected all of the time. I think take it in your stride. So be really confident. Be really pushy in terms of trying to get where you want to go without being rude or, you know, offensive in any way, and have as much practical experience as you possibly can in making television programmes if that's what you want to do.